All right, everybody. Well, thanks for joining us again for part two. In this episode, what we're going to do is we're going to be drilling some holes. And so throughout the process, while I'm doing some of the drilling and the camera's showing that, I'll explain sort of the why and what I'm doing here. And so I have some of our centering rings here. This is going to be our topmost centering ring. I need to drill a hole here and here for some eye bolts that are eventually going to go through there. Here's our bottommost centering ring. That's where our motor retainer is going to go. And so you can see there's all those holes there that are eventually going to have to be threaded in this and have screws that fit it in addition to a whole bunch of epoxy. So I need to drill all 12 of those holes. And then later on, I'll thread them as well with a tap. This singular hole needs to be drilled for an eye bolt that's going to go up in the nose cone. That's the bulk plate. And this is, we have two of these. This is one of them, the lids for the AV bay, and 3 holes. So one for the eye bolt fixture that's going to go in there, and then one hole here and here that are a bit bigger, and that is actually for the threaded rods that are our sled, our AV bay sled. Okay. Hope you enjoy. All right, well, man, I will say that took some serious figuring out. I had to go back in and do a bunch of filing inside these holes. And I had to do it in a way where I had to line up the inside of the motor tube again, because you can probably see there's a tiny lip there that's supposed to be there. That accounts for the thickness of the motor tube. So it insets, and it's supposed to be flush with the inside of the motor tube. The inside of the motor mount and the motor tube need to be flush to allow the motor to slide in. So these holes seemed like they would give me some play with the space that's actually inside the rim here, but it really didn't. It was down to some millimeters, man. And so anyway, I had to go back through and do some tapping that even kind of went into a little bit of aluminum just on the edges to allow these threaded screws to get down in there. But you can see now it is perfect. Looks good. So what I'll probably do is I'm going to pull these screws back out just a little bit just to lift this up. And when I get ready to do the JB weld, because it's the only place I use this epoxy for, but it has much higher heat resistance than other stuff, and this is where most of the flame will be, I'm going to put some in between this ring and the metal, and then over top of this a little bit, but not above the screws, because this has to sit down. And then when I'm ready to actually insert it, I'll do the same on the back side. So there you go. Now it's time to drill holes to fit in our eye bolts. Okay. Now it's time to drill holes to fill in our eye bolts. Right there. So I need to match the thickness to a reasonable degree and then start drilling. And then I'll put epoxy all around here and all around here as well when I'm ready. So I'm going to show you all something I didn't film a whole lot of just because in order to get all the screws in, make the epoxy in time, and do everything before it's set, filming at the same time just wasn't something I was able to do. I also had to go back with cloth and isopropyl alcohol to make sure I got all the runoff epoxy out of crevices I don't want it to be, including things like the little rim inside of there that still has to fit onto the motor mount, okay? So this is the JB weld that I'm putting on the motor mount here. Eventually when I put this on the motor tube and in the body, it'll also be around the outside edge, it'll be on the inside and outside edges on the back. I left all those surfaces clean, really clean for now, because I want them to be able to bite again into the actual surface when we get to there. Okay, it's going to be a little bit of time before we do that. A lot of other things have to happen first, like getting the actual fins in and all of that before we put this all the way on. But our mission for this segment of the video is really to get a lot of the centering rings and initial hardware epoxy stuff done just on those pieces, because after this we're going to start mounting them onto bigger tubes and actually start placing things in the body of the rocket itself. So the epoxies I'm using just for the bottom part, because that's where most of the heat is going to be from the rocket burn itself for that 5.7 seconds. And the metal part, the motor mount especially, or motor retainer especially, is going to get pretty darn hot. This stuff is worth using down there because it can withstand upwards of 500 degrees Fahrenheit. The other things I'll be using for important parts down below is air epoxy 6209. It has some good heat resistance and is generally well regarded for this kind of stuff. And for a lot of other purposes, and a lot of my other rockets, I've used Dixo, Total Boat, Fast Cure epoxy. Awesome stuff, easy to work with, very strong. So, all right. So our other things that are ready to go, we've got our topmost centering ring and the hardware put on there, forged eye bolts, really locked into place, oriented in a particular way. That way my quick links have room to move and I can actually use them and adjust them by reaching down in there. This is going to be the bulk plate that goes up into the nose cone like this. And the tops and bottoms of our AV bay. I'll talk about the AV bay a lot later. There's going to be a lot of other stuff we do to it, and charge wells we put on here, and terminal blocks and that sort of thing. But for now, one part is meant to come off, the other part is permanent, okay? And it's quite secure. Anyway, thanks everybody for joining us for this portion of the build, and we'll see you till next time.